So, SEC for North Carolina. Didn't see that one coming.
This is Tyler Zeller, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Thursday, July 24th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks so much for making us your first listener watch to get your Thursday going the right way. Special shout out to all the everydayers here with us, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and of course, our great Locked On Tar Heels insiders. We'd love to have you in both of those groups. The links are in the show notes. Coming up on the show today, with ACC Media Days going on, ACC Kickoff, I guess it's technically called these days. We've got some updates thanks to Inside Carolina on conference realignment as far as Carolina goes. On the football side of things, tickets completely sold out, but now you got to have a product worth selling. We'll look at that. The College Sports Commission is backtracking after their weird decision about collectives, and I think sports are going to be the better for it. Speaking of ACC kickoff, reminder that Bill Belichick and the Tar Heels are there today. Thursday, we'll have some coverage of that on tomorrow's show. As we get going, before we get into this conference realignment conversation, we got to give some Trivia Tuesday shout outs from people that got either 9 or 10 questions right on Tuesday's trivia. If you want to participate and you didn't, go back and listen and let us know how you did. So those that got 9 of the questions correct, I've got 4 that I have found. If I missed yours, please let me know. Are one of our great insiders, Taft Flowers. Taft, congratulations. And then 3 different people in the YouTube comments, Tar Heel Ray 9101, Terrell Arnett 4735, and Caleb Hensley Ministries. Congrats to all of you guys for getting 9 out of 10, just like Coach Rob and I did. And then finally, our perfect. We got 2 people that got 10 out of 10, at least 2 that have let me know about it. That's Brandon Wardell Sings on YouTube and Jake Garrett P8R on YouTube. Congrats to all of you. Great work on Trivia Tuesday. Let's keep those rolling. It's so much fun. Okay. Conference realignment. So for the longest time, I've been saying if and when Carolina leaves the ACC, which I hope doesn't have to happen. Carolina has been part of this thing for so incredibly long and would love them to get to stick around. But if we're reading the writing on the wall, and if Carolina does eventually go, I've been saying, and it's not just my opinion, I've heard this from people that matter in this conversation say the more, I don't know if I would say likely, but the better landing spot is for Carolina to go to the Big Ten over the SEC for both academic and athletic reasons. On the academic side, it's because Carolina as a university lines up more with the Big Ten schools, more of which are in that higher echelon. Athletically, Carolina also lines up with Big Ten schools better because there are quite a few sports that of Carolina's 28 varsity sports that the SEC simply just doesn't have, and the Big Ten has all of those and more. And so that's all part of that. Now, Inside Carolina has confirmed on Tuesday Carolina's desire to be potentially in a different conference if that's what it comes to, but not the one we've been talking about now for a long time. Adam Smith from Inside Carolina, let's give him some great props. Adam always does a great job. Wrote an interesting article on Tuesday discussing Commissioner Phillips' comments to kick off ACC kickoff on Tuesday. This gave occasion for Commissioner Phillips to talk about kind of this united front following the ACC's concessions, which allowed Florida State and Clemson to settle, and all that's done. The thing is, though, while Commissioner Phillips is hopeful for this united front, which it currently is intact. You know, we've passed the date at which anybody would have to let the ACC know they were going to leave next summer. So for at least one more season, everything's intact as is. But while it may be currently a united front, the concessions that the conference has made is going to make things much more feasible and fiscally responsible for schools to leave over the course of the next half decade or so. So my question is, how long will that united front last? Because I do emphasize currently a united front. Smith says in his article, quote, as currently constructed, the ACC's days could be numbered, with the Clemson and Florida State settlement agreement providing a substantial victory to member schools for exploring possible pathways toward leaving the conference and relocating to greener financial pastures. And any such group interested in seeking a potential departure from the ACC includes North Carolina, multiple sources told Inside Carolina. The Tar Heels even can be considered at the front of that pack alongside Clemson, sources said about the next round of realignment that's brewing, end quote. So interesting stuff there that Carolina would be right at the front of the pack of teams potentially to leave in this new freer era where it is easier to and cheaper to leave the ACC should the Tar Heels decide to do that for the Power Two, we call them, of the SEC or the Big Ten. So based on these new parameters, obviously, as I said, since this summer's date to let the ACC know that you're going to leave has passed, the soonest Carolina or anyone could leave would be June 30th of 2027. But the grant of rights is no longer a prohibitive issue. And now you have to give notice by June 1st that you would leave rather than what it previously was of August 15th. So theoretically, by June 1st of next year, we could see a school in the ACC, including Carolina, announce their intentions to leave on June 30th of 2027. That exit fee at that point would be $147 million. And you hear that number and you say, boy, Isaac, that's a pretty chunk. Well, yes, it is. But let me remind you that the estimation back in December of 2023, when FSU sued the ACC, was that it would cost $572 million for exit fees. That is a substantially smaller number. This is a massive reduction. And the kicker is that the exit fee now goes down $18 million every successive year until it plateaus at $75 million for 2030-31. And it'll stay at that number thereon after. And so if Carolina was going to leave, that might be the time to do it ahead of the 2030-31 season, which is 6 academic years away from now. Still a hefty chunk of change, $75 million, but wildly less, almost $500 million less in that range than it previously was. So that makes it seem like it is a more possible thing that with these changes to the ACC issues. But here's the other thing. For the longest time, as I said, I have talked about the Big Ten's the landing spot because of academic and athletic alignment that I talked about earlier in this segment. But apparently, that's not as big a concern for either the new administration or whoever or whatever it is, that now Inside Carolina is reporting that the SEC seems to be the desirous landing spot of the new administration, including soon-to-be AD Newmark, right? This is more from Smith's article. Quote, the academics among UNC's faculty preferred joining the Big Ten, while the UNC fan base often wanted a jump to the SEC. But make no mistake now, multiple sources told IC the SEC is where the Tar Heels are aiming under the leadership of Roberts and Newmark, should UNC move to leave the ACC for another league, perhaps in the near future. Sources said the 2030-31 school year, when the ACC's decreasing exit fees dip from $93 million to the flat $75 million threshold, would figure to become an important final line of demarcation if the Tar Heels haven't made their departure sooner. So I read all that to say a couple things. The SEC seems like now it's the greener pastures, not the Big Ten. I get it. It's always made more geographic sense. It's always made more sense from I feel like that's who you want to be, is the SEC over the Big Ten, but there are the academic and athletic issues. We'll look at those in a second. But also you hear Adam saying in that sources are saying to him, hey, that 30-31 school year when the fees are down to $75 million makes a lot of sense. But Carolina could make a departure sooner. That is not off the table. And so we've got 5 to 6 academic years to keep our eyes and ears on this thing to see, are the Tar Heels really going to make a move to leave the beloved ACC? And like, if that's going to become a reality, it's just weird to think about. But again, remember that Carolina is a desirous institution academically and athletically. We just finished 4th. We've talked about it on the show. Carolina did in the Directors Cup standings. The women just won the Capital One Award for the best women's athletics program in the nation. Ohio State won the men's side. And so it's like Carolina is right there, man, where everyone wants them. One of my concerns, though, here on the show, we've been talking about hashtag Project 28, where we want to shine a light on, where we want to save, where we want to promote all 28 of Carolina's varsity athletic sports, because, there's all the issues of rev share. We'll talk in a little bit about how things might be more feasible now to get money to the non-rev sports based on some more changes from the College Sports Commission. But I think that's good news. But if Carolina goes to the SEC, and I've done this before, I didn't bother to go through the list of like what sports aren't supported in the SEC, but could you still have those, but house them in a different conference? We've seen that, Carolina gymnastics was in the Eagle Conference until just the past couple seasons, where finally the ACC had enough gymnastics programs to have a conference for it. And so all of these are concerns that we got to look at and think about. And it's crazy to think about, but it seems that the day has come when Carolina to the SEC is now a very realistic proposition that we have to consider. Do I love it? No, I don't. I love the ACC. But you know what I love more? The University of North Carolina. And I would like to see them continue to flourish and thrive. And if a move to the SEC is what it's going to take to do that in this new day and age, to stay financially competitive or whatever it is, so be it. In the meantime, it seems like the ACC has taken and making strides. I think Carolina's onboarding of Newmark is going to help with this, with all the brand fundraising and sponsorships and other things that he will bring to the table. So I'm not concerned that Carolina will be able to stay afloat in the ACC, but the SEC seems to be on the horizon. Now, Carolina announced earlier this week that football tickets are completely sold out. And that's great news, especially given everything we just talked about and being desirous to other conferences. But now you got to make those people want to come back and do it all over and over and over again. And how do you do that? You go win. We'll talk about that in just a second. And we'll do so right after I tell you about FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game more exciting. You're already following the action anyway. Why not, up the stakes a little bit and make it more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are off getting sunburned at the beach. You can use FanDuel to track your favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, it's fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. So whether you're placing a same-game parlay or letting that bet ride right on into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like you're always part of the action. Football is not very far away. We're just about to talk about football tickets being sold out. Well, they're going to see TCU come to North Carolina, and we hope Carolina is going to win, but FanDuel favors the Frogs by 3.5. Over-under set at 58.5. If you think Carolina is going to open up the Belichick era with a win, you might, or even stay within the 3.5. You want to get in on that. New to FanDuel, new customers. You can bet $5. And if that bet wins, you're going to get $150 back in bonus bets. So open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. On Wednesday, Carolina announced that all tickets to Kenan Stadium for the 6 home football games this year are completely sold out. This includes season tickets, which actually sold out back in the spring, but now it also includes single game tickets as well. Everything is completely sold out. You want to show up and go to a game? I hope you know somebody, or I hope you can spend on third-party ticket websites. Let me remind you of the 6 home games that are now sold out. It's literally every other game. As a reminder, Carolina starts at home, goes on the road, and then it just flip-flops. Literally the entire season, culminating in the game at Raleigh against NC State. So the 6 home games: Monday, Labor Day, 9-1, standalone game. No other games happening. Carolina hosts TCU. Just said it. The Frogs favored by 3.5. Saturday, September 13th, Carolina hosts Richmond. Saturday, October 4th, Clemson. Saturday, October 25th, Virginia. Saturday, November 8th, Stanford in the home regular season finale. Saturday, November 22nd against Duke. You guys, this is the Bill Belichick effect on full display. I mean, this is crazy to think about. Here we sit in late July, and every single ticket to a home game this season is sold out. And let's not just imagine it's at home. There is going to be everyone on the road is going to want to see the Bill Belichick show as well. And so you better believe Carolina is going to get sold out on the road as well. Is this shocking? It's not shocking in some ways. It's not shocking to me that the TCU game is sold out. That is the first game of the Bill Belichick era. It's his collegiate debut as a head coach. Everybody's going to want to be there to see it. Also, it's Labor Day. It's a holiday. It's a standalone game. It makes sense. It's not shocking to me that the Clemson game is sold out. It's the first ACC game of the year. It's Clemson, for crying out loud. They're probably going to be the ACC favorites. We'll find out after ACC kickoff is done and all the votes are in. And so that doesn't shock me. It's not shocking to me that the Virginia game is sold out. The Cavs are going to be terrible this year, sure, but it's the South's oldest rivalry and everyone wants to go see it. And it's not shocking to me that the Duke game is sold out because it's Duke, period, enough said. What is shocking to me, though, is that the Richmond game is sold out. It's Richmond. It's not even an FBS opponent. So that is shocking to me. It's also shocking to me that the Stanford game is sold out. Stanford, similar to Virginia, projects to not be very good this year. They're coming across the country, and I don't think there's a big clamoring to see Stanford, but it's sold out. What's also shocking to me is that all 6 games, like I expected at some point this season, all 6 games would be sold out, but I did not expect that they would all be sold out this early in late July. That's crazy. We're still 5.5 weeks away from kickoff of the TCU game. But here's the big thing. Not only is this really cool, but now it's incumbent upon the Tar Heels to not allow this to be a one-off, to not allow this to be a one-time thing. Are we going to sit there 5 years from now, 10 years from now and say, hey, that was a cool thing that happened once. Bill Belichick came to Carolina and they sold out every home game, but they sucked. And so that was the only time it ever happened. Or is this the beginning of a Carolina football revolution where things take off and the return on the investment is massive? So that's the critical thing here, is that it can't just be about we sold tickets, we Carolina football, because we brought in Bill Belichick. It has to be about, initially, we sold out because Bill Belichick came in, but now we sold out because the product on the field is incredible. And so if you want to keep these crowds coming back, year 2 and year 3 has to be about the football, but it's got to start this year. Like it or not, fair or not, in year 1, things are going to have to go well if you want to continue to have ticket sales success. Now, that in itself is a massive win. Reminder that part of, we're just talking about conference realignment. Part of it with the ACC's uneven distribution of share is eyeballs, is Nielsen ratings, all of that kind of stuff. This is the in-person version of that tells me that people are going to be tuning into Carolina games left and right all season long. That's a massive win. But the same thing holds true there. If the on-field product does not live up to the hype, it's going to eventually fade away. Yeah, sure, it might stay strong for this first season, but it ain't going to last much longer than that unless you're winning football games. So that's what it's got to turn into. I love the point that my buddy R.L. Bynum, who does Tar Heel Tribune, I almost said Tar Heel Times, Tar Heel Tribune does a phenomenal job with them. He made this point on social media, and I loved it, and I wanted to quote him here. He says, quote, "The next step for the program is to convert sold-out games into capacity crowds. When games were sold out last season, that did not result in capacity crowds," end quote. So, I was making the point, the next step for the program is to convert sold-out games into wins. Like, you got to go do that. And RL is saying, hey, yes, all the tickets were sold, but people weren't showing up. And that's another point of it. In order to convert these sold out games into an actual sold out, no empty seats crowd, again, it's about winning. And if Carolina can do that, they're going to put themselves in great shapes to keep getting butts in the seat year after year after year. So this is a neat headline, but it's a great moment to be able to say, all right, now you got to make those people want to come back week after week after week, season after season after season. Can't wait to see what happens. The whole nation is sleeping on the Tar Heels, and they need to go out and prove and wake everybody up. Let's put it that way, right? Man, good stuff. Now, one of the good pieces of news is that the football players coming to Carolina are now going to still be able to make money, hopefully, through Carolina's collective Old Well management. Why? Well, because after coming down hard, the College Sports Commission got rebuffed. And people said, nah, we ain't going to do it that way. I'll explain and unpack it to wrap the show in just a second. July 1st was the date that the House settlement initiatives came into being and started. Everything started that date. And as a reminder, the College Sports Commission is the new entity formed that has a clearinghouse called NIL Go. NIL Go is tasked with approving or denying any third-party NIL deals that are $600 or more. A couple weeks after July 1st, the CSC came out with some new language basically saying, hey, any third-party NIL deals coming from collectives as opposed to directly from a business, we are going to basically deny or scrutinize these with a much higher threshold before approving. And immediately when this happened, I remember reading it and chuckling to myself and listening to where I could hear the faint rustling of paper, the clanging of typewriters as people began preparing to sue the CSC for such a thing as this. Just legal challenges being drafted left and right, because after that initial verbiage, it was insane to think that they could come up with this updated language that basically disallows collectives. Because, I mean, basically, it was just going to like, boosters are going to put money somewhere. It could either be kind of above board, above the table through collectives, or you could send it right back down under the table, right back down underground like it used to be all the time from boosters doing shady stuff. Well, the good news is that updated, amended language from the CSC that they put out after the fact, according to Yahoo's Ross Dellinger on Tuesday, quote, attorneys for the House plaintiffs have struck an agreement with the power conferences and NCAA officials to amend the decision-making from the industry's new enforcement arm, the College Sports Commission, related to how booster-backed collectives can compensate athletes. Dellinger goes on to say later, quote, as part of the agreement, the CSC is expected to treat collectives or any, quote, school-associated entity, end quote, in a similar fashion as other businesses when determining the legitimacy of third-party NIL deals submitted to the CSC's NIL Go clearinghouse. Well, duh. It's absurd that I have to read any of that. It's absurd that Ross Dellinger has to report it. Of course it should be treated this way, because NIL Go, it's that entity's responsibility, whether it's from a collective or a third-party business. It's their responsibility to figure out the difference between a legitimate and a non-legitimate NIL opportunity and then approve or deny it. It's not their job to throw the baby out with the bathwater, assuming that collectives are all nefarious and shady. Now, obviously, we had seen in the past couple years, there are some collectives that just dove straight into pay for play. Why? Because the NCAA put no parameters around it and everybody was allowed to because they could. I'm going to pay you as much as I want to come play for my school because nobody's told me I can't. While let's remember that the whole purpose of collectives in its purest form was basically intended to be like a brokerage between student athletes and businesses, that student athletes who want to do NIL things can go to the collective, and businesses that want to hire students to utilize their NIL Go to rep them or sell their stuff or whatever it is could come to that collective as well. Let's figure out who fits well and let's make it happen. That's the purest form of what collectives are meant to be. And so why should they not be equally as considered as a regular business? That just makes sense. And it was, again, insane for the CSC to think otherwise. Because could it not be true? Let's turn the tables for a minute. If we're going to assume that collectives are nefarious and don't have student athletes' best interests or the heart of what NIL is intended to be, could businesses not be equally as shady and like a car dealership say, all right, Henri Veesaar, I'm going to give you $250,000, but you ain't really got to do anything, but we're going to pretend like it's an actual NIL thing. Businesses could be as shady like that just as much as a collective could be. And the flip is true as well. Just like a business, let's just stick with a car dealership, could offer a good faith autograph signing session and pay Henri Veesaar whatever amount of money. A collective could equally as faithfully and above board broker that same kind of concept. And so it only makes sense that NIL Go, who has been tasked with looking at every NIL deal, I don't care where it comes from, you got to figure out how to do that and do so appropriately. Whether it's from a business or a collective, do it. And again, I think collectives are, again, in its purest form, so helpful to safeguard student athletes and make sure that these NIL deals are good before they send them on. So why are we trying to bash collectives? Now, let's clean them up. Let's make sure they're doing good faith NIL things, but let's treat them well. And so as part of this, part of the good news is that according to Dellinger, some of the NIL deals that the CSC rejected while applying that previous guidance are going to go back and reevaluate them based on this new approach. And so eventually at some point, an official statement is going to come out about all of this. But of course, all of this is surrounding that key phrase, valid business purpose, right? And there's other key phrases like the range of compensation. That's going to be a sticking point as well. But in terms of the collective side of it that we're talking about right now, valid business purpose is what we're looking at. And again, as I'm fond of saying, valid business purpose is at the heart and the essence of what NIL is actually intended to be, as opposed to pay for play. So there we go. To me, this is unequivocally the right decision to back off of that previous language and fix this. And then the other issue I've read, I think this was in On3's reporting, is that NIL Go has been wildly backed up. Like there's a lot of people that had submitted in the right amount of time, had submitted their deals, and they got no decision in the time that they needed to, and the event or whatever it was came and went. And it's just, again, this is not the NCAA, but that's doing NCAA things, right? Think about how long it takes to clear a student that needs a waiver or that is seeking a visa or whatever it is. How often has that happened? And now it's happening with this. It's like, hey, these people want to pay me for my name, image, and likeness because your clearinghouse isn't ready to go. I'm getting jammed up here. Fix it, man. So anyway, this is, to me, a step in the right direction. Good job to the House lawyers that are taking care of this. And man, it's going to be a journey, you guys, up and down, back and forth. But I think the very practical good news takeaway from this is that it means that maybe I was kind of concerned that we were going to have the $20.5 million in rev share, and then it was going to be pretty severely limited what Carolina was able to do NIL wise, or that businesses and the collectives were able to do NIL wise to take care of student athletes in other sports beyond the 4 sports that's getting Carolina's rev share. But I think this puts them back in good shape where we can have more NIL money paid to more student athletes and make all of these varsity teams solvent or make them able to stay alive. And that to me is great news. So we'll continue to keep an eye on it, and I'll keep reporting what we're hearing and seeing and how things are unfolding. But for now, that's it for today's show. Thanks so much for being here with us on Locked On Tar Heels. Make sure you subscribe wherever you find podcasts, YouTube, audio, all of it, man. It's all there. We'd love to have you not miss a second of the show. If you want to go and be a bigger part of the Locked On Tar Heels community, we got a Discord, man. It's hopping. It's great. It's so much fun. That link's in the show notes for you to join. If you want to go even deeper with the show, have one-on-one conversations with me, free access to all of my stats and charts and data, you can become a Locked On Tar Heels insider. That link is also in the show notes. A great way to help support what we're doing. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tomorrow to wrap up the week. But until then, peace.